This is the July 19th, 2023 meeting of the WCAC, and we do have quorum, and Barbara has graciously volunteered to take minutes, so we're set in that regard. Let me share my screen and
Susan, you do need to take a roll call vote.
Oh, okay. So let's see. I just name off people and see if they're here.
And they get to say aye.
Oh, awesome.
Or
so
present.
Exciting. Okay. All right. So Barbara.
Yep, here.
Ann Sussman.
Present.
Nicole Hammond.
Present.
John Cooley. Not present. And me, I'm present.
I don't know if anybody saw his email. He's hung up at a car dealership.
Yes. Yeah. I did see that, and I'm wondering if maybe we can, while we're waiting for him, we can go through the minutes from last time. And I think we would just need to have the group of us that are here confirm that they're okay to be posted. And then we can, hopefully John would be able to join for the rest of the program after that. Does that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me see if I can share the right thing on my screen. All right, so I just share this screen and go to my drive, get into these minutes. Okay, so these are our June 7th minutes. I'm gonna just, oops, need to add Nicole.
My name is misspelled, I think. It's Ann Sussman.
Oh, sorry.
That sounds like
Oh my
computer AI doing that.
H member, yeah. Oop. Okay. All right, and then the other folks who were at our meeting last time were Justin, Stefan, and Steve from Public Works, and then two folks from the public. One was Jonathan Smith and the other was Eric Young. I didn't quite get the address for Jonathan Smith, but it sounded like he was local given the comments he was making, but at any rate, that's where we stand with identification of the attendees. So let's see, last week we approved 2 sets of minutes, yay. We talked about when to have our July meeting, which ultimately ended up being today. We elected me as a new chairperson, so bear with me as I try to get the hang of running this meeting. And let's see, we talked about recruiting new members. There was a person named Lexi Averick Thompson who was sort of in the mix as having submitted a volunteer card. I don't have a status on that person. I'm not sure if Elizabeth, you know anything about them, or if John has managed to join since I started talking, if he knows anything. Okay, I'll take that as a no, and we'll just keep moving.
I do not.
Okay. Let's see. So we talked about complete streets and some other public works projects. And the complete streets report was all about the timeline for those improvements that are happening on Com Ave, roadway paving and sidewalks, crosswalks, et cetera. So we basically kind of captured the chain of events that's going to be happening there on Com Ave up through October, it seems. They do have a web page on the Concord town website that outlines all of the process of improvements that are happening, and we can look at that at any time. And they said they would be keeping it updated. But I think where we are right now is that soon this road reclamation work is going to start, and that sounds like it involves grinding up the asphalt that's currently there and then laying out some new asphalt with the final third coat of asphalt to be implemented at some point in October is what I gleaned from this. So anyway, that is what's going on, and we can keep an eye on it. I'm sure you guys have seen all the heavy equipment parked on Com Ave. And we talked about how to kind of manage the traffic there. Sounds like sometimes they'll have a lane closed because they'll have equipment parked in one lane next to the sidewalk. And so they'll be helping people navigate their way through there. The other update we got was Kenneth Dunn Square. We saw a plan of improvements that have been submitted for a Mass Works grant application. And I think we are pretty excited to see that. Sounds like they're going to be cutting into the square footage of the square a little bit to make the roadway more navigable for cars, and also putting in crosswalks and building a sidewalk and making it ADA compliant. So I think we were pretty excited to hear about those plans. Hopefully they do get funded by the grant. All right. And then lastly, we had the Baker Ave improvements. Those improvements entailed reworking the intersection of Baker Ave, Main Street, and Cottage Street. They were trying to get rid of kind of like an awkward driving pattern, sounds like from Cottage Street to Baker Ave, and smooth the way for people to interact with that intersection there. So they're going to be keeping us posted on that. And it sounds like they've got an engineering firm engaged on that project, and that project is going to take place. It's just a matter of when it's going to start. So those were the minutes that I took. Does anyone have any additions or any clarifications on what we just talked about?
I think they're excellent. I think we should vote to approve them.
Just one comment, and that Jonathan Smith's address is right here in the middle.
Oh, where? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Right at the very last page. Yep, you went past it. How'd you go past it?
Oh, 66
66
Upland Road. Yay. Okay, great. All right. And then
He's a
all
lovely
this,
man.
I need to, do you know Jonathan?
I do. In fact,
Oh, great.
I'll ask him if he's interested in joining.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we definitely need more participants. Okay, so I'm gonna put Jonathan Smith, just right here. Road. Great. Okay, I have the complete information now. Thank you so much for catching that, Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so can I make a motion to approve these minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, and I'll say aye as well. I can't see the camera. Has John joined at all to vote on this?
John's not here.
Okay.
Oh, he's getting in. He's connecting. He's connecting
Oh.
right.
Okay.
I just saw him. He's connecting.
Oh, good. Okay, so maybe I'll just like pause for a sec so that we can have a unanimous approval. Oh, Sue Felshin is raising her hand. Sue, go ahead.
19 Sunnyside Lane. While you're waiting for John, you can make sure your motion says these minutes as amended.
Ooh, yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm learning on the job here.
John's on.
Awesome.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we can hear you. So we were just about to take a vote on the minutes as amended. The amendment that we made was to identify where Jonathan Smith lives, which was 166 Upland Road, I believe. And so
Yep.
66.
Oh, sorry, 66. That's my mistake. 66 Upland Road. So we have made that amendment to the minutes that you had received in your email. So we're hoping that we can vote to approve the minutes as amended. John, do you vote in favor?
Yeah, I'm in favor. Yep.
Okay. Barbara, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Anne,
Yes.
great. And Nicole? Where's Nicole?
Yes.
She said yes already.
Giant gesture. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have unanimously approved the minutes as amended. Cool. All right. So let's see. Want to get back to the agenda, which is just go back to this screen here, and then I can make it to here. Oh yeah, got these up there. Okay, here are our minutes. Let's see, another housekeeping item is August 2nd is the date of our next meeting. Ann Sussman has already said that she may not be available on that date. And so I was thinking that we should figure out when in August we're all available.
I can do the following Wednesday, the 9th.
Okay. I
Yeah.
can probably,
In a
Ninth.
way, since we're holding this so close, we're so late, pushing it up a week, I think makes sense.
9th would work for me.
okay,
Likewise.
great. John, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm good. for that.
Okay. All right, so we will hold the meeting on the 9th at 7. Do we need to vote on that or?
No,
Okay. All right. So we'll be putting in that onto the Concord, onto the website so that everyone knows that our meeting is then, and we will hold the meeting at that time. Great. Cool. Okay. So let's see, just a quick, I mean, we were talking about the need to recruit other people for the committee. So I think everyone knows that that is a priority for us. We'll be doing that. And for our discussion today about 166 Com Ave, why don't we have Thomas, who I believe has joined us already, give his presentation, and then we can open it up for questions and try to raise our hands to ask questions at the end of his presentation so that we can keep things somewhat orderly in the inquiries that he gets. Does that work okay for you, Thomas, if we have you
Yeah.
speak and then
Yeah.
chime in with questions after? Okay.
That works fine.
Great. Okay. All right. So maybe what I should do is, I think I've stopped sharing my screen, and if you want to share your screen and show anything and or introduce yourself, you can feel free to go ahead.
I'm just Thomas Falwell at the firm of Coleman's and Newbury at 9 Damonville Square. I represent the applicant. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you again tonight. As you recall, we were here before you some time ago, presented the plans, which were nearly.
Sorry, I don't have a phone number for Ulrich Willie. To who?
Sorry about that. My thing's recording something here. We were before you and presented the plans as they then constituted. One of the issues that came up that you were concerned about was the parking on the site. And at the request of the board of the committee and the planning department, we engaged in extensive discussions with the owners of 152 Com Ave to see if we could come up with some sort of a joint parking plan for both sites. Unfortunately, those discussions didn't bear any fruit as far as coming up with a combined plan, principally because I don't think at this point in time the owners of 152 Com Ave are entirely have decisions to make about what they're going to do with the property, which would not enable them to commit to anything at this point in time as far as a joint parking plan. So try as we might, we weren't successful in that regard. But with me tonight, by the way, is Anthony Gagliardi, who is the member and principal of the development team and the applicant. And I believe with us also tonight is a representative of Spruhan Engineering, who are the engineers for the proposal. So I think Elizabeth has the plans. The plans you have that were submitted with the application are fairly complete, or are complete from our perspective. They show the parking as it's been a bit reconfigured with the numbers with 21 spots. We're seeking approval, as you think you know, from the zoning board of appeals for a special permit on the parking issue. The interim, at the request of the planning department, they've engaged, and my client has provided the funds for a peer parking and traffic review, which I assume is in process, Elizabeth?
Yes, the contract is being executed hopefully by this Friday.
So I'm not sure when that will be available. That would be a matter for the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, and hopefully that will be available. Elizabeth, do we think that's going to be available for the planning board meeting on the 28th?
So the planning board meeting is next Tuesday, the 25th.
25th, I'm sorry.
Will the consultant's report review be done? No.
Yeah, I didn't think so I was hoping the contract had already been signed and the work was underway, but
No.
obviously that's not the case. So we will await that. As I say, the proposal is as you see it on the plans, the renderings of the building, the floor plans, the landscaping plan's been provided, some lighting plan information has been provided. So it's as you saw it essentially before, with the parking now configured as it is because of the inability to reach any accord with 152 in terms of any other alternatives. So to coin a phrase, it is what it is. In order to develop this property, which is, as we've talked about before, is unique in many ways in terms of its size and its configuration relative to the wetlands and the Rivers Act and all of that. We're really can't configure it any differently in order to be in compliance with all of those regulations. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have with respect to the plans as proposed, and as I think you have. And
I think-
with that,
Excuse me, but I
open it up
think
for
we need to
questions.
post the plan. We need to post the plan so everybody can see it. That we should-
Elizabeth, can you do that? I don't have that ability from here.
So I can, unless Anthony wants to bring it up and run through the plan. Otherwise, I can bring it up and you'll have to tell me, which plan you want brought up. And so
Anthony, you have the ability to bring that up?
I do not, unfortunately. No, I'm not
okay.
the place where I can do that either. I was in another public
so-
hearing somewhere else, unfortunately.
Sue, you bring it up?
So you want just the
It would be the May 16th plans that we submitted to the planning board, which
yes.
don't differ.
So there's quite a few plans. So do you want me to bring up the civil plans? Or
Yes, I think so.
okay.
Those show the elevations and the entire site
well,
plan.
No, so there's the civil plans, which
Now, the
is
civils would show the storm water. I think we want to look at the
You
architectural.
have
will
the
show
architectural plans,
okay.
Yeah, the architectural will show the elevations and whatnot.
Okay,
the elevations and the site plan that shows the street access.
Which would you like to go over first, Tom?
why don't we look at the site plan first, if we
I
might?
think both, I think the architecturals also show the street access, so.
Yes, they do.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the plan that we're currently working with. You could see the parking where it shows, including the entrance and exit onto Comm Ave at that location, which is relatively adjacent to the property line. So that has not changed. That is as it has been proposed. We really don't have much of an alternative to that because of the Rivers Act and the wetlands considerations in terms of relocating it in another location.
I do have a question about this plan, that I think there's some things that need to be corrected. I am a licensed architect, and if someone presented me a plan like this, I would not approve it on my project because I would be afraid of a lawsuit. I will tell you the first things you need to correct. First of all, as you know, Comm Ave is very dangerous. There are a lot of car crashes there. Recently, about 3 months ago, there was a girl who had to be heliported. She was 12-year-old, was hit less than 1/10 of a mile from your site. There are driveways directly across from your driveway. I don't think it's ethical for me to look at this plan unless you show those other driveways. I'm shaking as I'm talking about this. Look, you haven't shown, Comm Ave is not a straight way there. In addition, the way you've drawn the Neshoba Brook, what happens, the Neshoba Brook doesn't go up against the building. You didn't draw this correctly.
Well, I think the gray thing is actually a walkway, and then the brook is supposed to be abutting this
But that's
green
not how you
space
do it.
there.
If I submitted this, I'd be sued. You can't do
Well,
that. You have to show where the walkway is and how it connects to the next building, which is the Neshoba Brook Bakery. This is a huge pedestrian.
Okay, so,
Well,
and
let him
I'm
answer.
gonna bring this back a little bit. This is just a rendering site plan. If you'd like me to bring up the civil plans, there's
But
civil
they should
plans
be,
on the
they
website
should
as
be,
well.
the site plan is the most important plan in the architectural. Okay, but then that needs to be transferred over. When you study architecture, you work as an architect, the most important thing is your site plan, and that has to show where egress is.
It does.
But the site plan you just showed us doesn't. This is wrong, incorrectly drawn, even your site plan, because there are 2 parking lots there on the other side. You need to show that. You could have a car crash there. You've got to show that, guys.
We believe it's shown accurately.
It is not drawn accurately, sir.
Well,
So,
I guess
okay,
Not
let me
accurately.
just interject for a second. And I think maybe what we all need to understand is, should any of the inflows from driveways on the other side of Comm Ave, do they need to be rendered in a drawing like this? Or is that what perhaps is being studied? Like Elizabeth was talking about putting out an RFP or signing a contract or something. Is there a study taking place for how the traffic flows in this area?
The outside consultant will be reviewing 2 things, vehicular and pedestrian safety as it relates to driveways, as well as the information submitted on the parking assessment as it relates to the requested relief from parking. So
Okay.
I think, the West Concord Advisory Committee is a subcommittee to the planning board, and you should really be focusing on just highlighting issues and concerns.
Well, my
to
concern is, as
provide-
a licensed architect licensed in Massachusetts, I would not legally sign this drawing. It does
Well,
not, it misguides the public. This is a hugely dangerous area.
Well,
So
is
if-
this actually something final, or is it just, it's being used to convey what the project roughly is going to be?
This is the plan.
No,
Okay.
it's not correct. It is, I cannot legally, I cannot say I can support it. It is not correct. You have to show, given there's so many accidents around here, Concord had 3 deaths in the past year, I think 5,000 accidents according to Mass DOT. 2 months ago, a girl was heliported to a Boston hospital in a crash less than 1/10 of a mile from here. I do not feel it's ethical or legal unless we show where the driveways are directly opposite this site.
So
And
on
I
that
don't
We
see it
submitted the
from
400,
Massachusetts.
we submitted all the plans
Correctly.
that the planning board.
And the other
requested,
problem with this
so
plan,
I think
your
you're a little
plan
out of
is-
line with this.
your plan is not in a vacuum. You experience West Concord as a place interconnected.
So, and I really need to have this not be so confrontational. If the rest of the committee, you've raised a very valid point, and the committee can include that in their comments to the planning board. But I really do think that this needs to not be, so hostile and confrontational. The applicant has voluntarily come to the committee to get your feedback. I think you've made a point, and everybody understands that point. So I think it's important to move on.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So I think, Nicole, you had your hand up. Do you have a comment you'd like to make about this?
I have a question as to when the study is going to take place, because I have concerns that it will be taking place in August when there's not as much traffic versus September when everybody's back in town.
So the applicant has submitted information with these plans and did a parking analysis. Their traffic engineer did an analysis that was part of this application. So the zoning board of appeals, their outside consultant, will be reviewing that information, will be reviewing these plans. The consultant is, the town's consultant is very familiar with West Concord. They're actually have worked with the engineering division on the ComAv bump outs. So they're very knowledgeable of the area. So I'm confident that they have the information and the expertise they need to evaluate this project as it relates to this intersection in this area.
Thank you. May I also state for the record that the folks that own Neshoba Bakery, who also have offices above, actually don't have enough parking for their patrons or the people who work there. So I'm not surprised that they were not able to offer any extra parking for this project.
I don't think it was the bakery that he approached. I think it was the possible additional project along ComAv. I think
No.
the bakery
we
counts
had-
a lot of its parking on the other side of the brook.
We had intensive discussions with the owners of 152 Commonwealth Ave on whether we could configure some sort of a joint parking arrangement. So we did have, in fact, direct discussions with the owners of the property.
Who's 151? Please, could you please remind me?
The Neshoba Bakery.
152 ComAv is Neshoba Bakery.
Yeah, so they don't have
And-
enough parking even for their own selves.
So what Barbara's comment, Neshoba Bakery has most of their parking on the other side of the brook as you go over the bridge.
But-
So
But
that's
they
where,
also, a lot of it in the front is for the people who work there. I go there
Right.
often. It's
right,
Yeah,
that's how they,
two in a row sometimes, so they don't have any extra parking.
how they've laid out the park, how the bakery has laid out the parking, they actually went through the Board of Appeals and the Planning Board to have it laid out that way.
So
So
I just wanted it to be on record that they didn't have any extra to give, and it wasn't because they didn't want to give.
Yeah.
They live in our community and they're great people.
As I said, we went through the exercise of having the discussion with them, and that was the result.
So this is Tom Sibley. I'm one of the principals here as well. And I just want to emphasize that we also believe them to be great people and great neighbors. And we had extensive conversations directly with them. And it wasn't a lack of willingness just for the sake of not doing it. It was that we did and spent a bunch of money doing additional plans and really trying to work through something that worked for everyone, and increased parking in a kind of a shared combined project type of way that also helped with access improvements. And to your point, there was no possible way to get any net new parking spots. And in fact, we found the opposite was true. And for them to have any willingness to kind of work with us too, we would have had to get rid of the tandem spots that they currently have out front. And we weren't going to be able to accomplish that either. Or if we did, it was going to lessen the number of parks. So it was just an exercise. It was certainly worthwhile doing, but unfortunately it didn't, as Tom say, bear any fruit.
Barbara.
So two questions. One is the proposed changes to Kenny Dunn Square reflected in this plan currently, or haven't you been able to get that far along yet? I don't know how far along that plan is, but, and then the other question is really, I know you spoke at one of our last meetings about landscaping along the Common Ave to sort of just disguise, block, help some of the parking. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about that.
Can you bring up the landscape plan for Barbara?
Oh, I see it. Yep. Yep, that's great.
So we did soften it by the addition of the landscaping, as you can see, at the corner, and also substantial landscaping in front of the building, but most importantly, substantial landscaping to the left of the building as you face it, adjacent to the brook, with the addition of the lawn area, and also with the walkway that we showed to connect up the pedestrian access to 152 from Commonwealth Ave as requested. So we've done
Great.
substantial work and committed to doing the landscaping that shows on here that was, in our opinion, significantly improved the site from what it is now, which is obviously barren of any landscaping at all to speak of.
And then the other question is, it occurs to me, without having put plans on top of each other, that the proposal for improving the intersection that involves Kenny Dunn Square might also help the traffic that we're concerned about on this corner. And maybe Elizabeth knows a little bit more about what that proposal is from Public Works.
I do not. I have not been involved with the improvements that they're proposing. I do know that for this plan, let's see if I can.
This is the current Kenny Dunn
No,
triangle?
this
No.
is no, this is so I don't know if this is if everybody can see this well enough, but currently this line right here is the current curb line, is roughly right about here.
Mm-hmm.
So they are proposing extending the curb line out this way. And I don't know if they've had additional conversations with Public Works. I'll let Tom and Anthony or Tom Sibley to, talk about whether they've coordinated this with
Well, I
engineering.
know those are new crosswalks.
Right. I don't know if this is the current configuration that Concord Public Works Engineering is proposing. I have not been
Okay.
involved in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Oliver, I think you've worked with DPW and engineering on that. I think this is basically per the recommendations that they made to us to extend this crosswalk. So you can add anything to that, but I think that this is all based on our conversations with engineering.
So maybe a question that we would have as a committee is, how reflective are these plans of the proposed changes that the Mass Works grant would bring to Kenny Dunn Square? I think it'd be really good to understand that just one way or the other, like what we're seeing here, and whether maybe some work that you guys would be doing to develop this parcel would help with the Mass Works work that's being suggested? I'm trying to sort it all out.
Well, as Anthony said, there have been discussions with engineering all along, and what you see is reflective of those discussions. So there's no further information we've been provided other than what's shown on here based upon the discussions with engineering on the subject.
Susan,
John.
I can relay that question to engineering.
That would be great. It would be great. Sorry, go ahead,
Susan,
John.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, I think it was the Transportation Advisory Committee had presented the proposal on Kenny Dunn Square to us. And I just think it would make a lot of sense for you guys to just have a meeting with them and see what they're doing to see, just to coordinate, that's all. But because there definitely is overlap between what you guys are doing and what they're proposing.
Right. It was a pretty recently submitted Mass Works grant, I think, that they were looking to get, what was that, over $500,000 in funding to fix this Kenneth Dunn Square area that has a lot of safety issues and is not ADA compliant. So it would be really good to figure out what falls under Mass Works and what would fall under this parcel's development. Anne, go ahead, please be nice. I think you're on mute.
Crosswalks are involved. You need to show that some of the crosswalks have car access on both sides of Commonwealth Avenue. Not presenting that is a public hazard, okay? And there are 2 crosswalks right near here. I mean, 2 driveway access points on the other side of Commonwealth Avenue, okay? Otherwise, I think what's really important as an architect, what you want to know is, where is the main entrance, public entrance to this building? Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, that would be great. Could you tell us about that, please, Tom?
Why don't I defer to Anthony on that? If you can blow that plan up or on the architectural plans, it may show that a little bit more clearly, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
The main public access is on Commonwealth Road towards the middle of the building, and anyone parking would access the building through it's hard to describe it on the near those first 2 handicap spots to the right of the building.
Okay.
So can you push the drawing down so we can see where Kenny Dunn Square is in relationship to that? Okay. So the main entrance to the building is, and you're adding another crosswalk. That's the issue in a way. This is a hugely dangerous site. People are speeding down from Route 2 and they're speeding out in both directions. And you've got a crosswalk not by your door, but by the river. Okay, I guess that makes sense. And then is there a side entrance too? Because people often come to enter lots and lots of people, hundreds of people every day come to enter Neshoba Brook Bakery, and they'll be going down the side. Do you have a side entrance to the building?
Well, we provided that additional exit as the walkway to it as a request to connect it up and make that access easier. It's not something that's required for our project. It's if you will, an amenity that in terms of the people who might be going to Neshoba Bakery from that location as opposed from the way they go now, which is of course going into the parking lot and going the other way. So we added that as a public amenity to allow another pedestrian access along that landscape corridor adjacent to the building
You're talking
to
about
get-
the stuff, the crosswalk at the far left on the west
Yeah,
side.
right.
That's really clever. So people can get to Neshoba Brook without having to meander through the parking lot.
That's correct.
Okay, I understand that. And then then the other entrance, the wheelchair entrance also is in the middle there? And then there's a third entrance on the side by the parking lot, is that it?
Where you say entry plaza there, where Anthony pointed
Tom,
out.
Yeah, so Tom, it might be easier since I have control of the mouse.
Okay.
That there's multiple entrances based on use. Because there's 3 separate uses happening. There's most of the first floor is the restaurant and kitchen, storage, office for the restaurant. It's a 61 seat restaurant. You have a main entrance into the restaurant here, a side entrance over here. There's a small retail space, right here. And I'm not sure what.
That's the entrance to the dwelling units on the second and third floor. That's for the
Well, I
for the
don't.
residential aspect of the.
Well, that's private. That's a private
Oh,
entrance.
I'm not sure about that because it just shows a lobby and there's only a door from the outside and a door into the retail space. So you may want to look at that. There's no access to anywhere else except the retail space. This middle entrance is the entrance for the main entrance for the residential. There's an entrance here, mailboxes, trash room, clearing, storage, and
The
the
elevator,
and the elevator.
in the stairway.
I don't know what this lobby is for. Maybe that's a lobby for the small scale retail. I'm not quite sure, but there is no door into anywhere else unless somebody forgot to put a door right here. That might be. And then there's 2, I don't know what the difference.
The entrance to the lobby gets you up to the residential portion of the building.
But
And the main entrance there should be a door there. That's
Okay.
where that circle is.
Um,
And then the
so I don't know
the
what
main
the
entrance in the
difference.
front also gets you. I mean,
Right
the
here.
lobby entrance is from the parking lot.
Yep.
The main entrance is from the street that gets you to the residential area.
So I don't know the difference between that plan and this plan, but. And then the second floor is there's 5 residential units on each floor.
Correct.
Mirrored floor plans. And then there's also an emergency stair that would bring somebody down over here, and this would be like a third entrance to the residential portion.
I think as Anthony pointed out, there should be a door there. We'll
Yeah, I think
we will
there should be a door there.
file an amended sheets that show that.
So, and does that answer, there's multiple doors and.
Right. And I would argue, I mean, I'm giving my architect perspective here. This is my hat. I would argue that the issue is there is tremendous amount of foot traffic now because the bakery, you go all the way down to the river to get to the bakery, and then you walk there. In some ways, by not having a direct access from the bakery, they could make more money that way. They should have.
That's what
access
this
from
path
down
is over here.
here, and they can go around, and they have to go all the way around to the street. In some ways where they put restrooms, they should have the entryway. Because people don't like walking along a street if they can walk around a river. They prefer that.
Well,
Well, I think
That's what
this is
this
leading
path
to
is
that
for.
back entrance to Neshoba, right? I mean, that's what I'm
yes,
thinking.
that's what
Yeah,
it's for.
okay.
We provided that as an amenity. For the
Yeah, well, that's
public
really good,
use.
but I think you could take advantage of it, not to be your front door too, a side door too. That's what I would recommend.
Well, it's not, the doors to the parking for the both uses to some extent, also the residential uses,
Right.
need to go through the entrance that's provided for that. Entrance is plural, but the main entrance for the residential units will be, as Elizabeth has pointed out, with the addition of that door from the lobby that is, wasn't shown, will be shown.
So I think John and then Nicole both have comments. John, go ahead.
John Cooley, no, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Is my hand up?
Yeah, it is. Nicole, do you have a new
It doesn't
comment?
show it on my end. Okay.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, Nicole, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry
There we
about that. I have a dog, so I just wanted to make sure his barking didn't bother people. Currently looking at the lot and the 152 Neshoba, there's a lot of asphalt. And I appreciate the way you guys are going to be improving how things are going to look, especially from Commonwealth where the village faces. I was wondering in your discussions with Neshoba 152 Commonwealth, if you ever talked about putting a line of trees to break up some of the asphalt and also to create some shade and help with the impermeable asphalt that will be there. It will keep things cooler. It will also make your site more beautiful and their site more beautiful. And the other thing I was wondering is if you would consider, and I'm not an architect or a landscape planner for businesses, but the dumpster currently where it is the face view of where the village is.
Exactly.
And you did a great job hiding it, but you also have a neat little landscape area that is towards Neshoba Brook parking. I was thinking that if, especially with pickup of trash, you could have a truck come back in and curve in. And so if you replaced where the dumpster is to the landscaped area, and then where the dumpster currently is and put landscaping there, it would look much more attractive as you walk down the village, and it would make your building look more attractive. In my opinion.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know that, I mean, we looked at all of those questions in terms of the location of the dumpster, and because of the site configuration, I don't believe it's possible to stick it where you wanted to. You suggest we put it in terms of being able to get a truck that's not going to be able to make a turn and to do that. It's simply a question of the the configuration of the site. We're working with what we have, which is certainly constraints that don't allow us to do some things that in a perfect world, if we had a lot more area, you could probably do. But we spent some time looking at the locations of these, and the dumpster in particular, and it's really the only location that works in order for it to be serviced. As I understand it, Anthony can.
I would urge you to reconsider, and I've heard you mention the site configurations being difficult quite a bit this evening, and I understand that it is a difficult site, but you're basically showing the village of West Concord your dumpster.
It's going to be screened.
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
Nicole, could you explain a little bit more the location that you have in mind? Because I'm not quite visualizing it.
I see, thank you very much. So where the green areas right now, and even if the parking changed to be on a diagonal, which could be fine too, I just feel like the dumpster could be put in a better spot. And if it could be put towards the green area that is right up against Neshoba towards the back, thank you very much. It would really improve the site, because you did a lot of work to make the building look attractive to a part of Concord that no one really sees, or West Concord, that a lot of people don't come from that. They might drive as they're going down Commonwealth and they're going off towards Route 2 and the Rotary. But really the village of Concord is where your parking lot is.
as is everyone else's parking lot, including 152. It is, you know, we looked at,
You're building new.
we're replacing
You're
the building
building
that's there
new.
now.
You're building new.
Well, we've looked at that, and Anthony can correct me, but I don't think from a traffic standpoint, getting the dumpster emptied and so forth, that it can be put there. I think we
I would-
Yeah,
looked
it's a
at.
matter of logistics of being able to empty it and replace
Right.
it, and yeah, so. I mean, we'll take it under consideration, but
I
Please,
I think you could
Mr.
ask Neshoba Brook Bakery if you could drive on their site to be able to dump it. To be able
Well,
to access it, because then if you could move it up exactly where Nicole said it would work. Because this is supposed to be a culture district that encourages culture and walkability, and just going to see dumpsters doesn't do that.
So what's on the other side of that little green sort of quarter circle? Is parking on the other side for Neshoba? I see like lines and maybe some numbers there. I'm just trying to get a sense. And then you also
Yes.
have the corner of the building, right?
yeah, we're showing the existing parking, as I believe.
actually, there's no parking there. There's parking right up against it, so a truck could go down the Neshoba alley or the driveway and back up easily. All of that is asphalt, even into the alleyway in between the two buildings that are Neshoba and the other building. I know it so well.
in theory, that sounds great, but that's not our property, so we can't have a dump truck like going on their property and dumping our dumpster.
Well, you can ask, can't you, after all the negotiations you did
Well,
for parking?
Or we can ask.
Yeah, but it'll be part of the issue is that relates to why we couldn't reach agreement with them in the first instance, because they don't have a plan at this point in time in terms of the reuse or the redevelopment of their property. So the
I would
use of their property is
encourage
something like,
I would encourage you to explore the possibility,
yeah, we can have that discussion.
because otherwise you're going to have West Concord looking at a covered dumpster. That's basically all the judge that you're putting on the other side isn't going to be nearly as important as the judge that you're putting on the Commonwealth West Concord Village side.
The what do you, I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm sorry, it's a sorry. All the landscaping and architecture that you're putting on the face for the square isn't nearly as important as what is going to be on the West Village Concord side, or West Concord Village side, which is where the village really is. And that's where the people walk along the sidewalks. A lot of people are not going to be coming from the Kenny Square.
Well,
So-
I know that that's true, but that I understand that's what you're recommending. We said we would
I've
explore.
been here 20 years, so, and I've been a customer of Neshoba for a very long time, and all the different wonderful little stores we have in West Concord. And I can assure you that I don't think I'm far off.
So you've been at this for almost an hour now. I don't know, Susan, if you want to move on and just kind of hit some highlights for additional things for them to think about.
I don't.
Well,
mean to-
so I think we have, so Barbara still has her hand up if that's a new hand. And then we also have Joe, which potentially Joe is a member of the public, and we haven't really opened this up for the public to comment on yet. So I know we only have a few minutes left till 8, but a lot of people came to this meeting, and I would love to see what the public has to say as well. So Barbara, do you have a new comment? I know you're not the public, but I'm trying to.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not nearly as concerned about the dumpster location. I know that trying to get big trucks in and out, straight shot is, I can't see trucks coming in and trying to back around.
So Barbara, I think you're gonna have to move a little closer to your computer, wherever your mic
Okay,
is.
sorry.
There you go.
I was too
Thank you.
relaxed, way too relaxed. I just don't have the same concerns about the dumpster. I'm sure there will be every effort made. None of us like dumpsters. And I'm also thinking, coming down Commonwealth, I just don't see that that becomes an eyesore. That's really all. I think we have to have some trust that they've done as much work as they can possibly do to make it feasible and to make it possible and easily accessible for trucks to get in and out with the least amount of concern. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. All right, so I think we do have a couple members of the public. We've got Joe, and then we have the Concord Flower Shop who have their hands up. I'm going to move to Joe right now.
Good, go ahead.
Hi, this is Joe Soberg at 166 Commonwealth Avenue, the owner. And
Great.
I've had many discussions with John Gates on the Shobabrook Bakery about the two blue dumpsters that are there. And John says as soon as he gets what's in the alleyway where the trucks deliver food and whatever for the other businesses there, those two blue dumpsters, and I've talked to him many a time, are going to be moved down into that alleyway where the trucks are. So they won't even be there, according to John. And I've had multiple discussions about it with him. So I just figured I'd put that into it too.
Okay. And the dumpsters you're referring to, are they is that like the little
Right here.
rectangle in the alleyway? Okay.
Yeah, it's right, they're
Yes.
right up against the fence to the brook.
Got
Yeah,
it. Okay.
right in with there's like 4 parking spaces. But they're gonna be moved to the alleyway where they have all their deliveries. So,
I see.
Yep.
Okay. That's good to know.
so you won't even see them, according to John.
Great. Thank you for letting us know that. That maybe opens up some possibilities for the dumpster that's on this site, but we can talk to them about that. Concord Flower Shop, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I'm Helen. I own the Concord Flower Shop across
Hi,
the street
Helen.
from all of this. We haven't touched base much about the parking situation in terms of them wanting to be able to have less parking than is normally required for the amount of residents there. And I think some of the points in this little brief that I have in front of me are a little disingenuous. In fact, they think they can get away with less parking because the restaurant parking can be accommodated by using open residential parking spots. I mean, what are these open residential parking spots to speak of? Encouraging employees not to drive to work? I mean, that's like ridiculous. How else are they going to get there? Not everybody is going to live on the MBTA commuter line, if this restaurant can even find employees, I might add. And using off-street parking. A lot of these vague points that they're using in order to justify not having enough parking are just not realistic. And I think West Concord has terrible parking problem as it is. And if we're gonna have this building is really too big, if it cannot have enough parking for all the uses that is going to be there. You're talking about some retail store that is yet to be decided. How do you know they only need 4 parking spaces? There's a lot of conjecture, there's a lot of guesswork, and I think a lot of it was based on wishes and not reality. That's, my take on it, on the parking.
So I do know a parking study was undertaken by the applicants, and then Elizabeth has alluded to another study that might be taking place from the town. I wonder if we can figure out how those might help alleviate some of Helen's concern.
But the town one would probably be more realistic. I mean, the applicant is going to get a study done that favors what they want. That's very biased study, in my opinion. Hopefully the towns would use a less biased source for this study. But anybody who's worked.
That's incorrect. We have an engineer who's independent, and whether we hire them or not, they're going to submit a study that's real, not based on what we tell them. So that's a disingenuous statement.
It's a lot of real guesswork. I mean, you can't say that people living there are only gonna have one car. You're kind of making up these things to justify not having enough parking, and I don't think it's realistic. I work across the street. I've worked in that neighborhood for 14 years and worked in Concord for 40 years. Parking has always been an issue in every neighborhood. So putting in a big building, which I'm not, I am in favor of making that whole look good. I'm not against the building per se or what you want to do with it, but I don't think the eliminating certain parking requirements is a good plan. And I think that needs to be rethought.
I think we need to also keep in mind that this is not an issue that's peculiar to this particular location. There's parking's an issue everywhere, including downtown Concord. And then you look at the redevelopment of the old 99, it has no parking at all. So, you know,
Right,
we
so
believe
why would
our
wanna make
study that
focus?
we provided was done by an independent, as Anthony points out, an independent contractor who's not putting numbers down on the report that we're feeding them. They do their report based upon the circumstances and the information provided from them, and and it's not disingenuous at all. It's their report.
Well, a lot of these aren't facts though, like Ride Out Playground is a short walk to the site and a large.
Well, that's true.
vacant- It is a short walk, but it's not largely vacant in all evening hours. There's all kinds of sporting activities go by year round. There's kids playing softball and baseball and soccer, and that parking lot is full oftentimes. So I don't
Yeah.
know where they're getting this idea that all these places are available. And what about the residential open parking spots? What does that even mean? Do you think the neighbors want people from a restaurant parking up and down Maple Street?
I drive by that location every day. I have for years, because I go on Com Ave and go out Com Ave and come back in and come to my office via Com Ave. And I go by the Ride Out Playground nightly. And, you know, yeah, there's certain times of the day where that parking lot is reasonably full. I've never seen it full. And certainly during the times that this restaurant would operate, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of activities that are going.
Is this restaurant only going to be open for dinner hours?
We don't.
We don't
no.
actually have a restaurant in mind at this point.
Well, I mean, the building hasn't been built yet, so I think, I mean,
Right.
a lot of things are unknowns. But I mean, Helen, thank you for sharing your parking concerns. And I think that is something that our committee will certainly take under advisement. And it sounds like Elizabeth has a study coming that will also be something that the town will be assessing what the parking situation is, and that can be combined with the findings.
So let me clarify that outside consultant for the Board of Appeals is a transportation engineer, and they do a peer review of the information that was submitted. So the town has not hired a consultant to go out and do a completely separate study. They have a outside consultant that will do a peer review of the information and the plans that have been submitted. So I want to make sure that, everybody's, clear on what that means.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
But
All right.
thank
I see we have a couple other people who want to comment, and in the interest of time, let's move on to Jean, please.
Hi, thank you. I think a lot of my questions were covered in the last comment, but I want to support the last comment. My name's Jean Easterday. I live on 48 Maple Street. And we live around the corner from this development and just found out about it really last night by word of mouth. So just to be clear, there's 61 seats in the restaurant. There's retail space, and then there's 10 residential units that would have like 19 bedrooms. So, and there's not enough parking. There's only 21 parking spaces. I just want to make sure I have all those facts right. So I guess yes, or am I wrong?
No, I believe that's accurate.
Okay.
I may be dropping off here shortly, not by choice, but because my battery's about gone on my iPad here. But So if
Sure.
I need to drop off, Anthony can pick it up, but I think the numbers that you quote are probably accurate, but we believe that it can be accommodated.
Okay, and then that was my question, just what the plan would be. So is there any, I'm assuming the answer is no to this, but is there any willingness to reduce the number of apartments or reduce the number of seats in the restaurant to reduce the parking? Because I think we've all talked about the fact that there's absolutely, not enough parking available in the area. So is there any leeway to reducing the number of parking spaces that would be required?
I think the answer to that is no, based upon the agreement we have with the owners in terms of what we need to get approved in order to be able to do this project.
Okay, so the town doesn't have to accommodate it, right? Elizabeth?
No, that's for the Board of Appeals to
To,
decide.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, and then the last question is just the restaurant, you don't know the hours, because I was wondering if it's
No.
a weekend or how late at night, if there would be alcohol involved and things like that.
Don't have that information, as that restaurant operator has not been identified,
Okay.
I
And,
believe, at this point.
got it. And then if you were to send people down to Ride Out for parking, there's no lighting there. So that would be something to just consider, that people are going down to a dark parking lot after hours. So would hope that a butt Ride Out playground, the neighbors have tried to keep that area kind of closed at night and not have lighting in the area. So just something else to consider. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Sue, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Devotion 19 Sunnyside Lane. I think a small point of clarification would be helpful in terms of the document that states factors involving whether relief from parking is justified or not. It says that the restaurant could share parking with residential, and it is not clear about whether this residential means the residents of the proposed building or the residential areas surrounding the general area of the property. And I think it would be helpful to rewrite the document just to clarify that point. Thank you.
That's a great point. Thank you. Okay.
Can I just say one quick point?
Yes, quick point,
I
please.
think this has been a really helpful meeting. I want to thank you, Tom, for doing this. It's very, very helpful. It's a really important building to go up. I think it's raised some very interesting comments and concerns. And I think, Susan, for us to be organized, maybe what we should do is just come up with a little document just to list some of our concerns and things where we need more information to make it organized. And then we could submit that to the planning board and to Elizabeth Hughes or whatever, or the select board, because I think there are some issues. I also think one thing I noticed is that one reason Neshoba Brook restaurant is so successful is they highlight their access to the brook. And you can see the brook, you walk the brook, you can sit down by the brook inside the restaurant and look at it. And at the same time, your restaurant is built reversed, looking only at the road. You might want to think about that.
That's incorrect. So you need to look at the floor plans. They have the entrance and that looks out to the brook as well.
Oh, because I couldn't see that. The way he showed it, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I'll try to check it again, but it looked like it was
Yeah.
the opposite. And so what we should do, and then I think the other thing we need to point out is the plan does not show the Minuteman Automotive, which is directly opposite. So their driveway is to the left, to the right is a very big driveway for Minuteman Automotive. And I think people need to know that because I think also we need to know how many crosswalks, because this is a scene of accidents, we need to know how many crosswalks are within that 1/10 of a mile for us to really approve and say this is done correctly, supporting pedestrian and bike safety, which is what I'm very concerned about.
Okay, so this has been amazing feedback. I'm going to ask Elizabeth, how should our committee corral all of these thoughts and be heard with the ZBA, or is there an official feedback mechanism? I know that this project goes to the ZBA to ask for the parking relief. You were saying like on the 25th, which is rather soon.
No, so I'll clarify the timeline. This project requires two things. One, site plan approval, for it's a new project. It's basically a redevelopment of the property, and it triggers site plan review. Because of the requested relief from parking, they also need a special permit. If it was just site plan review, it would go through the planning board. But because of the requested relief for parking and the special permit, that requires approval by the Board of Appeals. So the Board of Appeals will also review the site plan review, and it will be one consolidated decision from the Board of Appeals. Under the zoning bylaw, when that happens, the planning board is required to make a recommendation to the Board of Appeals. So the planning board will be discussing this at their meeting next Tuesday, Tuesday night. The applicant has been invited also to come and give a presentation. And then, the planning board will, have, questions and comments. It is a quick time frame. Generally, West Concord Advisory Committee just writes up a memo of their issues, concerns, or comments, and provides that to the planning board. The planning board takes that into consideration. In this instance, they would take that into consideration as part of their conversation and their recommendation to the Board of Appeals. So I think there's, there is time for, I think this committee only meets once a month.
Yeah.
So there isn't, the planning board meets twice a month, and so there's a little bit more time. So I think what you can do is just designate, one person to draft a memo, and then, work with you as the chair to just review that memo, and then forward that to the Board of Appeals. I mean, to the planning board, I'm sorry.
The planning board. Okay.
I'd be happy to throw together just ideas that I can give you, Sue, and then you can draft it. But there are some key ideas that I think we need, that were brought up here, that are really important. We should just put them in row.
Okay. If you want to get it started, Anne, that would be great. And then we can take what Barbara's collected from minutes and kind of also look at the recording for this meeting and try
I'd be
to
happy get it started.
synthesize what
You don't
has
have
come
much
out of
time,
this
though, right?
robust
You have to do it
discussion.
pretty quickly, right? Because today's the
No, you won't need, the planning board is gonna have their initial review next Tuesday night. More than likely, they will continue it for at least 2 weeks, because they will also be interested in what the outside consultant has to say.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily need to, put this together
Well, I
in the
can
next
throw it
few days.
together. I can throw it together, get you something by Saturday.
Okay. That would be great.
Because I got too much else going on, and then we can move on. But I think it's really important this gets developed. There's a tremendous, it's a very vital site, so I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good stuff in the discussion today, and I think the planning board should think about these issues that have come up here, and I'm sure they're going to have questions of their own, and then they're going to take the consultants' review into account as well. So more to come on this for sure. It sounds like not the next planning board meeting, but the one after that. So possibly like 3 weeks from now is really when our deadline is to give them a letter. I mean, days in advance of that. But does that sound right, Elizabeth, that probably after the meeting they're having, you said on the 25th, then in 2 weeks, that meeting would be the one where like their discussion on this would end?
Well, I can't tell you whether it's going to end, but the next meeting for the planning board is August 8th.
Okay. Okay.
Because my sense is we should just get draft ideas out there soon, so they know these ideas, they don't discover them at the very end, So
Yeah.
I'd rather get something done quickly for Tuesday, so they have our concerns. But also
Okay.
our support. In some ways, I think it's a good idea. In other ways, there are issues.
Yep. No, that sounds good. All right. And we had been talking about having our next meeting, not August 2nd, but let's see, the 9th, which is actually the day after the planning board's meeting. I wonder if we could move our meeting up a little bit so that it's not on the 2nd of August, but maybe another day during that week so that we can finalize our letter and give it to the planning board. Does anyone have the ability to meet in August earlier than the 8th? Or sorry. Yeah,
So
the 8th.
so earlier you talked about moving your meeting from the 2nd to the 9th.
Yes, right. And so what I'm saying is, like, if the planning board is meeting on the 8th and they'll be in the meat of this discussion, does it make sense for us to have provided them a letter in advance of that? So during the week
I
of,
could meet on the 4th at night, on the 7th at 7 PM on the 4th, that's Friday,
mm,
but that's a night.
yeah, a lot of people probably can't do that. I don't know.
We do Wednesday at night.
So you don't have, so the committee can designate, one of you to draft it and have the chair review it and the chair submit it. You don't need to meet to do that.
Okay. I mean, is everyone on our committee comfortable with not having another meeting in advance of this letter being provided to the planning board, that it'll get circulated on email with, everyone
No,
just responding back to one person? No?
So each person can provide you as the chair in an email comments.
Right. We do
Okay.
that before. We've done
If,
that.
but they were raised tonight at this
Mhm.
meeting, so I would imagine that any draft letter that gets written is based off the comments that committee members have made tonight. And the
Yep.
letter gets drafted and reviewed by the chair.
That sounds perfect. Sounds good. We can do it.
I am sorry,
Okay.
may I ask one more quick question? I'm sorry, because I know.
Yeah.
Just because we're talking about like perhaps parking across from Rideout Playground or on Maple Street or other areas, none of the neighbors were notified of, like, I just found out about it last night. Is there a way that we could or should be notifying people about this?
Yes, so the formal public hearing is through the Zoning Board of Appeals. And a legal notice gets published in the paper of when they have that public hearing. And notification to abutters within 300 feet of this site get actual mailed notification. But there's no, since this committee and the planning board is only making a recommendation, there's no requirement for there to be notification or additional legal notices in the paper and stuff. So that's why, we always encourage people, if, to sign up under notify me, choose the boards and committees that, you're interested in. When an agenda gets posted, you immediately can look at the agenda and see if there's anything you're interested in. But a
That's
formal
terrific.
legal notice will go out.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So our plan is that we're going to gather all of the ideas that were raised tonight, put them into a document. Once we have that document together, I think, Elizabeth, I'm able to send each individual on this committee the document and say, do you have any additional changes before it becomes final, right? It's kind of similar to the minutes where people can give me feedback on a draft of something, right? So that I make sure it reflects what everyone's thinking is.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that's what we will do. And we will keep the date of us getting together next on August 9th then, since everyone said they could do that. Nicole, did you have another thing you wanted to say?
Real quick, I didn't even know about the notify me. How does everybody know about it?
Hang on. We talk about notify me all the time.
But regular
one second.
Regular residents don't know about it. They don't. I can guarantee you.
So on the main page, the town's main page right here on the left-hand column.
But you're assuming people will go there to get, that site is so difficult to read and understand and go through. We really need a mailer to let people know about this.
Or an email.
So
I lived here 12
There's
years.
a lot of people who are not computer savvy to do this.
So there is, given the number of applications and the things, the planning division supports 8 boards and committees. And so when we are required to do a mailing for the public hearing and the legal notices in the Concord Bridge, and we do all that. So I understand about, you know, some people not being as technically savvy, but as a planner, I also know that there's, you know, civic personal responsibility, that if you want to be engaged in your community, you also have to take steps for that. So
That's not fair. And by the way, the woman I live across the street from is 98. The woman next to her is 89 and Wes is 95. I can guarantee you they're not looking on the Concord town or Town of Concord website to figure out this information.
I can't answer that concern. It's not, it is not within there are only 5 of us in the planning division for 8 boards and committees. I understand the issues and the concerns, but it is notifying everybody for every project, for every committee is just.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, no, I've never heard of Notify Me. It would be great to get a mailer. Hey, do you want to know information about what's going on in the town of Concord?
Okay.
Well, I think that's like,
Perfect.
I think that,
I don't,
go ahead.
my division doesn't handle that webpage or Notify Me, but I will relay that to the public information officer. And she can get something out in the paper and
Actually mailboxes, because not everybody reads the paper either.
so once again, it's for a postcard to go to all town residents, it's $3,500. Again, you know, it's, you know, there's different constraints, but I will relay that to the public information officer, and you know, they can announce it at the select board meetings, and, you know, put something in the paper and put something out on you know, whatever different medias, you know, that they can, and I will let her know that.
Nicole, I have an idea. I wonder, like, would it make sense for us to put up some flyers in various places that still allow for flyers to be posted, like in businesses and stuff, advertising our committee and saying, even if you don't want to join, these are like, you can generally join the meetings and hear what's going on, because perhaps people like that you're talking about wouldn't be wanting to click through and look at an agenda, but they would just know to log on, usually on the first Wednesday at 7, and hear what's going on. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Great recommendation. It's
If
always
somebody
important
on the committee
civic
wants to
engagement.
draft a flyer, send it to me. I'll be happy to print you 100 copies, 200 copies if you want.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I think that would be great.
I just want to second, that's a great idea. I've lived here 12 years. I've never heard of Notify Me. Never heard of it.
I personally use it and I like it a lot because it like prods me to be engaged. Like it just is kind of like a little robot toiling away behind the scenes, reminding me of things to look at. So I would advocate for it, but I know everybody has different channels they like to get information through. Sue, did you have a comment?
I actually have a couple of comments. First, I'm very sorry to say that I'm no longer the planning board's designated liaison to your committee, because I've moved on to a different committee with the cycling of the years, and because the planning board is short a member at the moment, we were unable to designate a liaison at this time. I will attempt to attend meetings because I find it interesting, but there it is. Second of all, Elizabeth, when you contact the town information officer, maybe you could recommend to them that they get the bridge to include a screenshot of the upper left-hand corner of the town website with a big fat honking circle around the Notify Me button. Because some people have trouble tracking visual information, and that would make it much easier when they publish online. Maybe it could be in a distinctive color that contrasts with the rest of the web page. Nicole, in the old days, before we had an internet, if you wanted to find out what the agendas for meetings were, you had to go to the townhouse, go inside the townhouse, or it was posted actually outside the townhouse as well, and read the darn thing, which was rather difficult if you had to take Shank's mare or ride a horse or whatever it was one did back in those old days. So it is true, it is difficult sometimes to find out what's going on. And we have more inequality now because things are changing between the old way and the new way, but it is still overall easier for people. And as a last note, I would recommend to everyone on this committee, sign up not only for various agendas, but also for the news and notices feed under Notify Me, and tell your friends. It's really great and it's not too much email.
Awesome. Thanks for those recommendations. And we're sad that you will no longer be joining us as a planning board liaison, but you are always welcome at our meetings at any time because you add a lot. So thank you for everything that you've done to help us.
Pleasure. And thank you for the great work you do.
All right. So I think we're significantly over time and we've got our next meeting set. We can certainly cover more of our housekeeping items during our next meeting. And I'll be in touch with Elizabeth, of course, to see if there are other guest speakers that we should be having present at our August meeting. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate all the opinions and the discussion tonight. It was great. And we'll put it all together into a document.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody. Great to see you. Take care. Bye.